I'm a movement, get out my way. We see you, we see you. Black excellence is the new way. We see you, we see you. The time is now, baby, why wait? We see you, we see you, we see you, we see you, we see you. No preview, we see you, we see you. Black excellence, we fit the culture. Talk about relevant, talking about it in a room with the elephants. Match it out, walk it out like pedestrian. Shakespeare, talk about elegance, real talent in the prevalence. So refreshing like a peppermint, got the blueprint. Think I'm marked like a footprint. Oh yeah, Martin Luther King had a dream. I'm the one, yeah. Number one like Sydney with the Oscar and the funds up. Hands up, if you ain't scared of change, don't you change up. I'm don't you swig it out my way. We see you, we see you. Black excellence, this the new way. We see you, we see you. The time is now, baby, why wait? We see you, we see you, we see you, we see you, we see you. No preview, we see you, we see you. Work it out. Back up, back up. Wait a minute, hold on. We see you.
Hey folks, Michael Taylor here, your host of Theater Corner Green Room, and here is my co-host,
Kathryn Smith-McGlynn.
and we have something incredibly special for you today. And I'm hearing an echo. We have someone very special today, and what we're going to do, and that special person is...
Karole Foreman, triple threat.
Oh my goodness, hello.
Quadruple threat.
As I said before, Mama's just trying to make a living, doing what we need to do. Good morning.
Welcome
or afternoon.
That's right.
I'm still on theater morning time, which is like we kicking at the crack of noon.
Welcome to Theater Corner. It is. It's been a long time coming there, sister.
You finally wrangled me down. I've been a moving target, so thank you for being persistent and for having me. I'm really honored to be here. I love your show, so thank you. I can fangirl out a little bit, right?
Yes, okay. Of course. Yes.
And so I thought it would be really cool to, as part of the introduction, I want to play a piece that's.
Oh yeah.
That's Karole in her finest. Well, yeah, one of her finest. Let's see. Let's push this.
Them that's got shall have. Them that's not shall lose. So the Bible said, and it's
and we seem to have a technical.
No sound.
I love technology. I love living in the future.
I know. We need to hear that beautiful voice, though. When I first saw that, I didn't have the luxury of seeing your performance.
Oh, that's okay.
In Lady Day, but your voice.
Thank you. I appreciate
Such a
that.
Beautiful voice.
Kathryn, thank you so much. I had a whole team of people giving me a lot of love and a lot of support and a lot of preparation, and we did it recently, or last year, I should say. Boy, I have no concept of time anymore. At Signet Theater in Old Town, and it would have been my 5th time doing the role. Originated in Long Beach at International City Theater, directed by Ren T. Brown. And then he moved it to the Ebony Repertory Theater, his space, along with Gail Hooks, whom you both know and we all love in our community. And then we closed on the beginning of March, and a few weeks later, the whole world shut down. And we came back at the end of the pandemic, and we brought the show to PCPA. And then we went to Free Fall Theater in Florida, and then Sean Murray invited us back to premiere the show at Signet Theater here in San Diego. So it was wonderful. It's been a full circle moment during different stages of the pandemic where initially we were intimate with people, and then people had to be 10, 20 feet away from you. But coming back to Signet was one of the first times I was able to interact and reconnect with people and walk out into the audience and have that connection again. It's been a role of a lifetime to step into the historical figure of Lady Day and how an artist of her caliber survived Jim Crow America, being an artist, being a human being, and as we see our lives reflected today, 60 years later, also kind of a full circle moment, 64 years after her passing. But we know from the people who've come before us what resistance looks like and how our artistry can speak truth to power, and her courage and her bravery, that in spite of all these things, we remember her not only as a victim of some horrible things, but because of her music, because of her art, because of the message that she was lending to us.
I tell you, I was there at the Signet to witness this incredible artistic performance, and what stood out to me was perhaps a lot of the people that attended, they thought, okay, we're gonna hear Lady Day sing La La. Y'all went in deep. I mean, it was like y'all threw everything out there that was like real life. I remember one particular part where like her arm stockings went down and you could see you guys
see the track marks.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people think of it as a musical, which always kind of bothered me. I mean, we were nominated. I was nominated as Best Featured Artist in a Musical at the Craig Noel Awards, which was a great honor. But Ren Troy Brown, as you know, who's the director, saw, we treated it as a play with music. Of course, the piece is designed to concertize because you want to, you see a show about Billie Holiday, you expect her to sing. So the conceit of it is she's in a nightclub, and it takes place 4 months before her passing. So this is a woman literally struggling for her life, fighting for her life and her legacy. And so, she wanted to perform. Her cabaret license has been revoked, so she can't perform in her home in New York. So, and it was written really beautifully by Lanny Robertson. And so I think Ren and I felt that there was an opportunity to reclaim Billie's story, especially when we have other folks outside of the culture telling our stories, really mining for the truth as raw. And also, sometimes the show is done with a band and, it's very upbeat. And it's not that there aren't elements of joy in her singing and her performing and her regaling us with her stories. In fact, you have to laugh at some of these, and that was surprising to me, the way that she was so jocular and how she communicated these really intense experiences that she had in her life. So we didn't want to shy away from that. And so the stripped down version of just myself and a piano player on stage and the audience as the third character, you really wanted to feel as if you were there, hopefully, as an intimate night with Billie Holiday.
And then there was some N-bombs. Up in there.
We would just keep, this was how she communicated. And also there's a thing called the Midnight Ramble. So let me back up a little bit because it's loaded, that question that you just threw at me, Michael. Her friend and her muse, her musical soulmate, Lester Young, has just passed away. So what Ren and I did was we kind of conflated that time where she's just come from the funeral. So this is the backstory we created. She's doing a show in Philadelphia, so she's just driven down from New York to come and do these shows. This is the third show of the evening at midnight, which was something in the tradition called the Midnight Ramble, where performers knew they could work blue. So you could kind of say what you wanted, and, you know, she gets a little salty, as you saw in the performance. So, you know, and often federal agents would come to these shows because they specifically wanted to make sure that she was not singing Strange Fruit.
Oh, yeah.
At the
Yes.
time, you know, because, you know, they would come up on stage and, you know, manhandle her, take her off stage, and search her dressing room for drugs and, you know, all kinds of things. And she was kind of singled out. There have been some really interesting documentaries made about her at this time. And she was really ushering in the civil rights movement with that song.
So it was censorship.
It was absolute censorship. It was one of the first protest songs that was being done. You know, she did it first at an integrated club in New York City by a Jewish poet. You know, she was singing the song, and that was making people, she was protesting the lynching of black bodies in the South, and people did not like that. They took issue with it. You know, how dare she? And also being one of the few black women in jazz, you know, a male-dominated form, you know, so she was easy pickings. And she also was one of the artists, many artists had lost their cabaret cards. Cabaret card was something you had to have as a performer in New York City to work in any of the clubs, and it was really supposed to be for the workers, for the health department, to make sure you didn't have any diseases coming in. But it was a great way for policing of black artists at the time and a way of controlling them, you know, and they could arrest you for any excuse. So you had people like Louis Armstrong, and, you know, Lenny Bruce had lost his card, and Thelonious Monk, and, you know, other great artists at the time, but they would lose their card for maybe a few months, 1 year, 2 years at the most. Billie Holiday, after her conviction, lost her cabaret card for 10 years. And that was the longest of any artist.
Do you think that's because of her gender, I wonder?
I believe it was. I believe it was, and the audacity that she had to sing that song. Yeah. And, you know, she would take the fall for drug charges. You know, they would come in and plant drugs. But, you know, she was an addict. And after she had been released from prison, she was actually trying to kick the habit, and she was on medication. They arrested her, put her in the hospital, chained her to her bed, and stopped the medication for withdrawals. And she was already, you know, years of actually, she was having liver failure from drinking, you know, so she was drinking and smoking pot rather than using heroin, you know, which still was an illegal substance. And supposedly drugs were found in her room, but they were pinned on the wall across from her hospital bed. So, you know, a few kind of suspicious circumstances around that arrest. And so but going down kind of the rabbit hole of researching her and more research material that has come to life, a woman who had researched her for 10 years. And this information was starting to be integrated in books that have been released in the past 10 years. So it's like peeling away an onion. You know, the more that you wonder about her story, the deeper you can go. So every time I come to the role, I have to go back and re-research to try to keep up on the material. But it's a real, you know, we talk about history being erased, and so in these stories, and we as artists can keep these stories alive and keep our history alive by really finding and digging for the truth of our artists as a reflection of what has been going on in America in terms of racism and the truth of the economy and what this country was built on, and the tools that we need to continue to find ways of resisting. And I think her story was also a lesson in resistance.
Yeah, and I think artists today are looking for ways to resist, and you know, it's beyond entertainment.
It is. And that's what Ren and I were looking for, you know. I mean, certainly it's entertainment. It's, don't take me down that road, you know.
Let's go down that road.
But that's where we come. I mean, we're in the commercialization of our art, and you're in the institutions of theater, which have a way that you have to live and function and exist, and you have to keep people coming in to pay the rent.
You're
basically,
a commodity.
We are commodities, and you know, we're coming out of a place that is a sacred tradition, you know, and so there is, you know, almost every culture has a sacred tradition associated with our art form, and so you are going to run into these contradictions. You're going to run into these walls, these parameters that are going to keep you functioning in a certain way in order to fulfill the mission of the institutions. So there's really no way out of it. And every once in a while when you have a piece that can kind of break down those walls, it's, you know, you have this revelation as an audience member thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't think something like that was possible. Because that's not the nature of the institutions that we're working in, you know, to entertain the public, to help people forget about things that are going on in the world. It's an opportunity to escape, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we have, you know, opportunities to do that. But even when you go back to Greece and Roman sacred traditions, it was a community event where people in the community were given a responsibility to honor the gods, and people came together to tell these stories to edify communities, to reflect our lives, a chance to meditate on who we are and what we are as a culture, as a nation. You know, so those were considered a privilege and a sacred opportunity to be in service to your community in order to uplift and to help your community. So when you find those opportunities, I feel honored and grateful, but I feel a responsibility to try to get it right and to try to be in service of that. So, you know, we can talk about, you know, being a celebrity and being a star, and being, you know, and which is wonderful. Some people love being celebrities and are great at it. I'm like, God bless y'all. That's wonderful. I'm happy to be a journeyman actor, but to have a rare opportunity where you can talk about something that's more than yourself. When you can talk about being in service of your people, of your community, of enlightening or helping or trying to show other people. We've been trying to tell you all for 400 years what's been going on. We've been trying to tell you.
You didn't listen.
You ain't well, hello, where we are today.
Yeah.
You know.
I want to acknowledge California College of Music. They sent a shout out to you on the chat.
Well, hello. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening.
And we got Eric B. Anthony.
E.B. Anthony. I love my brother E.B. Anthony. We've met each other on a production of Jelly's Last Jam 19 years ago at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, directed by the incredible Kent Gash. And we just did it at the Pasadena Playhouse last year. And we got a chance to do the show again. It's my third time doing the show. I did it 33 years ago when George Wolfe directed it at the Taper. And I was in the ensemble. In Atlanta, I got to play the romantic lead, Anita, and then 31 years later, I get to play the grandmother.
I love that.
So Eric and I have been on this journey before. I love you, E.B. Ants. He's an incredible. Oh my gosh, there it is. There I am. Where am I? There's Susan Birkenhead. There's George Wolfe. Tanya Pinkins. I'm sitting on Keith David's lap, who played the Chimney Man.
Oh,
right there.
Okay.
I don't know if you
there
can
you
see
are.
it. Yeah, there I is.
And I understood Daniel J. Watts. He mentioned
Yes,
that
we
he
did
was.
we did it Jelly's Last Jam at the Alliance as well with Eric Anthony, and Billy Porter played Chimney Man.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was a heck of a cast. It was an incredible. Every time I've done that show, it's another one of those once in a lifetime experiences where you're telling a story about a great American artist such as Jelly Roll Morton. And I remember I still have stacks of music at home in one of my boxes of music that didn't make it into the play because George, we workshopped it for 2 years at the Taper. And then George would say to Susan Birkenhead and the late Luther Henderson, we need a song for this moment. And I don't know what it is. And George, I would call him the Black Einstein because his hair was akimbo. And so Susan and Luther would go into a corner and write a song, and we would be rehearsing something else. And about a half hour, 45 minutes later, they would come back with a song. We'd learn it. And it was wonderful to watch them in process. And even when we were previewing, we were still getting new material.
Wow.
We would go into rehearsal, and sometimes we would miss cues, and the song would start, and we're off stage. We're looking at each other. We should be on stage, shouldn't we, doing this song? And then it wasn't a tap show at that time. Oba Babatunde, who originated the role, would play piano, but Pamela Winslow Hines, who was Gregory Hines' wife, was one of the producers and wanted a vehicle for Gregory Hines and talked to the team and said, this needs to be a tap show so my husband can do it. So I get a call from the taper. Well, we're going to Broadway. We'd love to have you come. Do you know how to tap? I'd love to come. I don't know how to tap. Okay, we'll call you. 2 weeks later, they're in rehearsal already. So,
So where does Carol's theater journey start? Where did
I was born a poor black child. No. Well, according to my mom, I came out of the womb screaming with a head full of hair and 2 front teeth. It started I think, as a way for me to keep from being bullied when I was a kid. How do I put this? I was really shy. I grew up here in San Diego. I was born in Morocco. Went to school in Coronado Island Elementary School, and I would read ferociously because I was hungry for stories. I remember reading Sammy Davis Jr.'s book, Yes, I Can, and about his story. And at the time, the teacher was having me read Dick and Jane. I was in something like the 3rd grade, and my parents wondered, what is going on? So they had a PTA meeting, and the teacher sat across from my parents in the 1970s and said, it's a scientific fact that blacks are athletically inclined, and your daughter shouldn't waste her time pursuing academics.
what?
Oh no.
So after they pulled my mother off of her, we were transferred to Sacred Heart on Coronado Island, and then shortly after we went to Virginia. Sorry, this is a long story. And then I was very excited to be, around other black kids. And someone ran up to me the first day and said, "Is you really from Africa?"
Oh, jeez.
And I'd never heard black vernacular, and I said, it's not is you, it's are you, because I'm awkward, and I didn't mean to insult her, and she just looked at me and said, you think you white. So I was doomed, but I was put in gifted classes and all these accelerated classes, and we had to write a story, and I stood up in front of the class, and I told the story that I had written, and it was the first time I felt people leaning forward. To listen to me, just the energy of that. And I remember I was talking about something in the back of the room. Everyone turned to look in the back of the room. And I thought, this is the strangest thing, and I love it. So I think that was where the impulse to perform.
And we should can you clarify that you meant Morocco in Africa, not as in like Morocco, Ohio. So people
Is there a Morocco, Ohio?
You know what? There's a Greece, Ohio. There's an Athens in Ohio.
Okay.
And I always thought, when I would hear Athens, I would think Greece. I was like, oh. So that our listeners and our viewers know.
Thank you. Sometimes I talk too
No,
quickly.
that's okay.
No, thank you for that clarification. Yes,
Tell
Morocco,
us about
Africa.
how that came about.
My father was in the military in the U.S. Navy for 26 years, and he was transferred there with my mother, and that's where I was born. It was some interesting stories my mother would regale to you about our time in Morocco. They had a really fascinating, my parents at the time were practicing Baha'is, which is a sect of the Muslim faith. They believe in the equality of women. They believe in the equality of the sexes. They believe in tolerance for all faiths. They don't think there's any one way to God. So I think that's where a lot of my personal philosophies came from, and I think the type of work that I'm drawn to comes from because my parents had a huge influence, especially when I was experiencing racism in San Diego and also in Virginia, where we were living at the time. You're not above anyone else, you're not below anyone else, you are the same as everyone else, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So that's, I think, where my value system is based and the type of work that I'm drawn to. So, yeah, it had a real formidable impact on me. And they also had a library at the time where people could read books from different religious faiths because any other religious book except the Quran at the time was outlawed. And they actually helped an interracial couple escape Morocco at the time, a mixed faith couple. They had to get out of the country, so my parents helped too. My father was president of the Baha'i faith here in San Diego for a while. He he was an interesting guy. My dad was really quiet. He actually was also helping to reinstate black officers in the Navy, because the Navy at the time was bringing down certain type of program to get rid of black officers and to keep from advancing them. So my father was assisting lawyers, and he would quietly write up cases to get black officers reinstated, because they started to give these qualification tests to black officers, which were designed for them to fail, and they would be decommissioned. So he would help reinstate their commission. So he was doing this all anonymously and quietly. And then there was an investigation to try to figure out who is helping all these black men get back. And my dad said to my mother and said, I'm going to have to take early retirement, because if they catch me, I might be court-martialed. So he took an early retirement from the military. And I didn't find out any of this until after he passed away.
Resistance.
Yeah.
We're back.
We're back at this is the time we need him, right?
Well, may God rest
But
his
we
soul.
have his daughter, so.
If only I could keep up with him. Yeah, he was a teacher. He was one of the first people to do communication, cultural communication in the workplace. He worked with the police department. He worked with the education department here, and he was kind of quietly, doing these things in the community. But he was a strong believer in resistance, and made sure that I was reading black authors. When I was growing up, you need to read, about Martin Luther King. You need to read about Malcolm X. We were always also listening to these recordings of artists, and so he had a big impact on me about how important it was to read and to know history and black history. And I love science fiction. So he scoured for my birthday and found one black science fiction writer that I needed to read, as long as it was a black author.
Octavia Butler, someone like
yeah.
right? And
yeah.
you're also an educator.
I am. I went back and got my master's in 2014, and then at Cal State Long Beach for acting and teaching directing. And my husband and I taught a summer arts program in Bangladesh at Asian University for Women. Back in 2013, 2014, my girlfriend Margaret Krzyzewska was running an English language department. It was a liberal arts college, the only one of its kind in Southeast Asia. So we had women from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bhutan, Myanmar, Bangladesh. It was extraordinary, and a lot of women who were very suspicious of arts education, but a huge respect for education and for learning, because they understood that it was going to be their way out of poverty and out of the circumstances that they were in. And a lot of them, one young woman from Sri Lanka we sponsored, and we were able to bring her to the States for a arts program at Steppenwolf. She was taking my husband's drawing and painting class and my acting class. And, she said that she literally grew up in a hut with a dirt floor, was the first in her family to go to college to get a terminal degree. And a lot of these women went on to NGOs to go back to teach in their communities. And, my husband and I were trying to put together a documentary about the work we did and kind of comparing it to the work we were doing at Cal State Long Beach, where we were both teaching at the time. So that's been it was one of the most satisfying, I think, times in my life as an artist where you felt like your work was having a direct impact on people. A lot of the women I'm still in touch with to this day. They said, your classes really gave me an opportunity to express myself, and it was the first time that I had an opportunity to do something like that. So it was deeply, it was one of the best experiences I think I've had in my life.
Knowledge is truly power.
As people are trying to erase it.
Right, right. And so, look what we have here intentionally.
Thank you for that segue, Michael. We're here for the art.
No, we're here to get to know you, but we can't ignore this performance. Anybody who pulls this off in the way that you pull it off in Fences, that's superb.
Thanks.
What was that experience?
It was like channeling the ancestors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something about August Wilson's writing, and something about the musicality of his writing. I felt my job was to get out of the way and let Rose
Let her live.
live. And it was the first time. It was also my first experience of feeling what life would have been like for my mother, for my aunt, for my grandmother. I had an aunt who lived here in Santa Ana who worked as a domestic. The way that he's articulating the experiences of women, in my particular case, navigating the roles of finding autonomy while supporting our Black men who were struggling with their stuff. It's the cycle of all of these plays that August has written. I mean, the griot of our times, the Shakespeare of our times. August Wilson is, as we know. I had the opportunity to do it twice. I think the picture before, I worked with Michael Shepard, and here Derek Whedon, who I worked with at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, who's a formidable giant of an actor, is so well respected. Her sorrow, her guts, her strength, her being just the stalwart matriarch, and loving so deeply and passionately her men, and using whatever strength she had to make it better for the next generation. I mean, these were women who are always working to edify, your children, the next generation. She takes in the child that Troy has had with another woman, and she says to him, you have a choice. You either choose, you chose. If you want me to take in this child, you no longer have a wife. You no longer have a woman. But I am going to be a mother to this child because this child is innocent. And so she transferred all of her hope. All of her hope was in Troy and undergirding his dignity. But, once he violated that trust, this is where my love and support is going to go into, because this is the hope for the next generation. So, what we were holding on to in terms of passing this on. So to me, it's always got to be in honor of the ancestors and the strength that still lives in us. Native traditions, indigenous traditions talk about thinking 7 generations ahead. And even scientists have found that, the DNA that's kind of living in our body, the blueprint for who we are, goes back 7 generations. So there's a tie to this ancestral memory that is living in us. Oh my gosh, look at all these photos you got out. You forget what you do.
So you really are channeling the ancestors.
I hope, because I'm always looking to be better. And there are times I go back and think, oh, I wish, you think about your training. I didn't have the opportunity for one of these Ivy League educations. So much of it was kind of learning on the go. I've had great mentors and have worked with some remarkable artists, and so you're always watching and learning from them, I think, as well. I love dramaturgy. I love reading, so I love researching roles. I try to work on roles if I know that there's something that I might be right for, maybe months in advance of shows that are going through, because I'm thinking, okay, someone's going to be casting this show. I got to look this up. This year I'm playing Bess in Porgy and Bess. So I'm hoping I'm getting enough information and if there's any physicality, if there's any dialect work, if there's something where I can look like them, enough information to where I can get out of the way and let that, and it sounds woo-woo to people when you say channeling, because, again, that gets into spirituality and it kind of puts people off. But, forgive me, I don't have the acumen to adequately express what is happening or what I'm attempting to allow to happen, to allow to trust that I've done all the work that I can. And it's now my business to mind my business and try to speak truth to the character and the human being that I'm trying to allow to inhabit my instrument. And here's with Ms. Dawn Lewis, who I love. I've done 3 shows with Dawn Lewis. She is such a remarkable, you remember her from Different World. And Elijah, who's this? Elijah Rock.
Where was this?
This was done at Ensemble Theater Company in Santa Barbara. I did, how many shows? I did 3 shows there. I did Intimate Apparel was one of my first shows there. And Peggy Blow, who I've known forever. We did Jelly's Last Jam together. We also did a production of Crowns and Intimate Apparel, and here we're in Porgy and Bess. She plays Abuela on my block, and she had a spinoff of her own show. And we've been trying to do a comedy show together for the past 30 years. So Peggy, if you're listening, call us, sister, because we're always coming up with routines in the dressing room. She's the only person that makes me feel funny. So... Here's Frank Larson, who's an extraordinary actor who plays Sport in Life, again in our production of Porgy and Bess. Just a great role. I was terrified the whole time because we had about 10 days to put this show up, and they had done a jazz adaptation of this show, which was just crazy. And we didn't get the second act until the next Wednesday. And
Remember when you used to have like weeks to rehearse?
Now,
Remember
this is another issue I have with commercial theater. You forget, and also speaking to the stereotype that talent for black actors and artists comes naturally. Like we're somehow magical black people who can just show up in a space and we sing and dance and we act our behinds off because this is what we do coming out of the womb, training what? And even when I was researching Billie Holiday, some of the the television shows, natural and unrehearsed jazz. These musicians were obsessed with their instruments, with their musicality, would rehearse obsessively for 10 hours a day, right. 7 days a week to show up and appear as if, and there was some talk overheard recently at a regional theater, which I will never remain nameless, and the director was saying, well, they can give 6 weeks to the Sondheim show, but they give us 10 days to put up this musical, and, this is real.
Yeah.
This,
the pressure.
This is the pressure we have, and we show up because we know we have to, and we know we have to be as good in order to continue to be seen and to be hired, and it takes a toll. It really takes its toll. So it's incumbent for us to continue to speak up and say, allow us the dignity.
Yes.
Right.
To work our craft, to work our instruments so we can show up and support you. It's not adversarial. This is what we need as craftspeople, as practitioners. And it's not just the people on stage, but the technical elements and the people who are doing your design. We all deserve that dignity and space to show up as our best.
Absolutely.
But it was a phenomenal group of artists, and Oh, recently the Old Globe Theater, Murder on the Orient Express. I played a black Russian, and child, I was living my best life. I worked on my dialect coach for a month, and actually, they talk about non-traditional casting, but really there were African-American expats in Russia during Stalin's reign, during, the revolution, and they were recruiting scientists, they were recruiting specialists who understood the science of cotton crop growing.
Really?
Yeah, because they needed people to help with their agriculture. So they said, look, we're a socialist country, you will live equally. That's why there was the Red Scare in America. Well, all these black, people are communists and well, yeah, because, we have an equal opportunity to live as dignified human beings. So they recruited a group of expats. And then when the, I can't remember, the Bolsheviks were coming to power, and blacks were becoming very wealthy and marrying into Russian families and Russian royalty, which I did not know in my research for this role. And then they said, oh, we're going to be part of your revolution, right? Because we're oppressed people too. And the Bolsheviks said, no, y'all are rich. Either you get out of the country or you go to the work camps. And so a bunch of Russian expats went to Istanbul and founded communities there. And so I based this character, Princess Dragomirov, on this character, so I could come into that rehearsal room and stand and not think, oh, I'm a black woman, they're casting non-traditionally. But no, I'm a black woman who was actually born into Russian royalty because this is an historical fact. So it's understanding, when you're coming in to a role, I feel like I need to be tethered to something real as an experience so I can play the truth of that character. And on top of that, I had a great time. It was a great cast, and I looked fierce. You know, the crew there, the technicians, it's just at the highest level of work. It was the first show I was in where the set got applause when there was a scene change. There was an actual train car that was built. The whole set rotated. They had automatic train, compartments that would slide on stage, and it was just an exquisite production.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun.
The Old Globe is a magical place.
It is.
It really is. I had the time of my life there. I was so excited to do that.
And who was that?
Peter Amster from Florida. I'd never worked with him before. Just a great human being. So much fun. He's like kind of this grandfatherly type. You come into the room, oh, we're just going to have a great time, and I trust you all. And boy, y'all did half of my work because y'all came in ready. And we had a great rehearsal period. We had lots of time. They also had a dialect coach there that you would work with and to help hone your performance. You get fitted for your wigs. They actually make the wigs for you.
Yeah.
I had is it okay to call it fat suits? I don't know what it was. I was Rubenesque. They had a Rubenesque suit for me to put on, and I loved having all that girth and being able to move and live and articulate. This particular character physically was very different for me. So, and I'm in my grandmother phase now. So, this is a fun period. Yeah, girl, child, please.
But Globe has wonderful resources. So that had to be nice to perform at a theater where everything is the way it should be.
Yeah, if only, But God bless, and that's why it comes down to the financial resources of all these institutions. And there are plenty of, institutions, too. For instance, the Ebony Rep, I think of, which is, the only professional African-American theater. And we talk about diversifying theaters. Well, hello. We have theater spaces celebrating people of color and our work. We can redirect some of those
resources.
But a lot more resources. And it's also, you're paying for real estate. Yeah. And, the legacy of some, of names on buildings is very attractive for people. And I think if we can think about the artisans that are going in to these spaces, could also use your support and really edify the work that we're doing inside of these buildings, I think is just as important.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. That's right. What do we got going on here?
This is Intimate Apparel with A.J. Curtada, one of the most lovely leading men I've ever worked with, because he had to play a particularly challenging character, Lynn Nottage. It's one of the most beautifully written plays. I think I remember reading it and I wept. And I was supposed to do the premiere of this play when it was at South Coast Rep, and I wept because I had done the reading of it. And it hadn't changed too much except for a few things. And I'm playing Esther here. And it was just about as I was about to age out of the role. So I'm glad I got to do the role when I did, because years later I was able to play Mrs. Dixon in the role. So it's also about a story she heard about a great grandmother of hers at the turn of the century in New York, who worked as a seamstress, who comes up from the South. She lives at a boarding house with all women. And the matron of the place is trying to marry off the women into respectable marriages. And instead, she starts this correspondence with a man who's working on the Panama Canal. But she can't read or write. So she has the women that she works for, makes intimate apparel, undergarments for, write the letters for her. And so he ends up proposing for her, coming to the States. We find out that he's also illiterate and has been paying an older man to write these letters. So they both basically catfished each other, essentially. And she's really in love with a Hasidic man who's an immigrant, who's also been promised to someone else, but because of anti-miscegenation laws and religious laws, they cannot be together. But they have this incredible erotic exchange through fabric. But she ends up marrying this man, and here he's asking her for all the money that she's stuffed into her mattress from sewing, because she dreams of opening a parlor for Black women, and he wants to open up stables with horses so they can move aside. So she gives him all of his money, and he ends up gambling it all away. Just a powerful show. You know, I don't know why we always have to have shows about us being resilient, but
Right?
you know, but regardless, it's a show that if any of you get a chance to see this show, it's a remarkable show. And also Peggy Blow is in this show with me again. But A.K. Murtada is just one of the kindest, most generous actors I've ever had the pleasure of sharing a stage with. You know, there's a scene, there's a sexual assault. He's before intimacy coordinators. Are you okay, Carol? Is it okay if I touch you here? Are you comfortable? Do you feel safe? He was always reassuring
there
me.
were.
Yeah, and I've never had, that was the first time I ever had that with a leading man. Yeah. So I'm so grateful to AK for that. Just generous human being, and he traveled with his wife and 3 kids too on the road who was there, so we would spend time together, you know, after the show, and just lovely, really wonderful people, and I'm so grateful for him.
Wow. So with your rich theater journey, what would you give to young actors who perhaps are just starting their theater journey as actors? What kind of I don't know, words of inspiration or even technical advice? What would you tell these young actors?
Learn your craft. Learn your craft. Learn your craft. You don't have to know it all. Be open to everything that people tell you. It's gotten harder to teach because I'm moving into education now, because people want to feel safe. It's also hard. It's harder to touch people. You know, if you want to hug someone, you know, and I always want to be mindful of people's. And I think there's a lot of things that have come now into the culture of this that are important for our safety and well-being. At a certain time, you have to know whether or not you're hiding behind your insecurity, or if it's something psychological that's keeping you from doing something you're uncomfortable with. Get psychological help. Acting can be therapeutic, but it is not therapy. Nope. Take care. Yeah, get yourself some help. If you're coming in with ego and attitude and insecurity, and we're all insecure. I'm still, you know, this morning I woke up and I thought, what am I doing? You know, there are times that it assaults you in ways that come out of the blue. You have to find ways of protecting yourself, talking to someone. Take care of yourself. Learn your business. Because the business is usually the antithesis of everything you've learned in your training. So understand what it's like to read a contract. Understand what it's like to pay 10 to 20% of your income to agents and managers. Understand what it's like to know when you need a lawyer, especially if you're writing or creating something, or, you know, you're getting together with your friends to do an independent film, or, you know, you want to write this great play or musical with someone, and, we're just doing it and we'll work out the legal stuff. No.
Oh, right.
Take care of your business. I think a lawyer years ago, I said, what advice would you have for me? And she said, get a business degree. Learn business, because if you're moving into show business,
That's what it is.
You have to know that, and learn that language. You know, if you're coming into a negotiation or even in a space, well, I'm an artist, I'm free, and I need to express myself. Okay, good for you. You might have to do your own thing, or it's going to be harder for you.
Yeah.
You know, you need to find a space where that's acceptable. But even in the space now to where, you know, we're speaking truth to power, I'm always suspicious of that. I'm still guarded about that, because, you know, times when I have, and even when I think I'm being diplomatic, you know, they'll say, well, maybe you and this organization, Carol, aren't a good fit. You know, which is code for I'm thinking, I said, well, I think that's very interesting. Let me table this with my managers and get back to you. But please know that I'm coming from a space of cooperation and wanting what's best for this project overall, you know, instead of, how dare you? You know that, you know, it's gotten us into a lot of trouble. And
Know your place.
Yeah, the lip service that's paid as opposed to what's really underneath it all.
Yeah. And do you think that that being said, that the new generation, the younger generation, if they're taught that, because business part of it, you know, 80s, 90s, it wasn't part of the curriculum.
Oh, no.
At all.
Yeah.
You know?
Nope.
And so, you know, even with the playing field being leveled just a little bit, I guess, if you are of a certain, you know, in the business where you have your own production company and you can come in and you can make those terms, you know, do you think then that will help the business evolve itself, Hollywood itself, so that they would be able to see artists and creatives on equal ground?
Again, institutions that were not built for us.
Yeah.
You know, I think of people like Tyler Perry. You know, when are we going to come together and say, what do we envision for ourselves? Yeah. Because we still have to fit into a model. Just me personally, I could be wrong, and, you know, I think you can kind of push so far, but we already see the backlash. Yeah. You know, people are being let go from very prestigious positions in academia, in news, in education, in entertainment. I think until we really have the mindset of working for ourselves and collaborating and really building for what we do, I think that's where the real revolution of our work and our artistry is going to happen, and supporting those institutions that are already have the foundation built for that now, and supporting that and seeing how that can be developed.
The Ebony Reps and, right?
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Wow. What is on the horizon?
Oh, child, I'm thinking, can I retire in 2 years?
No.
I'm saying no. My body is saying, what are you doing? No, I've had some health, I've had some health issues in the past year that I've had to address and pay attention to, because that's real, because I hit 60. So, ageism is a real thing in this business.
Taking care of yourself is a real thing.
Real thing. I have a team of people that snap me together and put me back. I have an acupuncturist. I have a chiropractor. I have physical therapists. I have, holistic. You got to keep moving. Because what we do is athletic. And you have to condition yourself, because you never know. I'm going to be doing a production of Follies at Signet Theater in August. I don't think they've officially announced it, but I'm officially announcing it. Exclusive. So we're going to be starting off on some PR stuff this week. I'm very excited to be working with Sean Murray again, and some of my favorite people. I think people are going to be really excited about this production, and it's going to be premiering in the new space.
That's right.
At the station. What's the station?
Liberty
Station.
Liberty Station.
Yeah. I've been doing a series of short films, so I'm doing a bunch of festivals that are coming up. I have a recurring role as Judge Dabney on Days of Our Lives, so I did a 15-episode arc that's going to be airing sometime this year, and I'm going back next week for another shoot, so they've been bringing me back, so that's been lovely. I've embarked on a journey of 60 experiences for my 60th birthday year.
Oh, really?
So I've been posting those on Instagram, and so I'm in the process of doing things with friends and trying experiences that I haven't had before. And I'm taking a tap class now, which is one of them, which I never had because my parents forbade us for watching tap and Tarzan when we were growing up. Even though it's a great art form, and so I'm like, I want to do that because I want to embrace that because it's a beautiful art form and a way of celebrating and staying in shape.
I think tap dancing on Broadway will eventually be in your future,
Maybe. Oh, I love you. Could you hold that vision for me?
Yes.
Because Mama doesn't have the strength right now.
It is in the universe. It will happen.
I adore you, Kathryn. Thank you.
Is skydiving on that list?
No. I also put as a caveat, no extreme sports, y'all. I'm trying to maintain what I got, what God has so graciously endowed me with. As I said, I have a chiropractor to snap me together again, but I'm only willing to push that so far.
So that sounds like you'll be back here at the green room around July, August time frame.
I would love
Oh,
to.
that
I'll
would be
bring
wonderful.
cocktails. We'll have a,
Ooh,
we'll have a little.
Uh-oh.
I like that. Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be taking drink orders now.
So what's your signature drink that you put together?
Oh, I don't know. I had a Zoom birthday party and I fell in love with a baby Yoda.
A
Oh
baby
yes,
Yeah.
from the Star Wars.
From the Star Wars. Yeah. It was fun. It was the best birthday party. So my friend Michael Shepard and his husband Hutch, they were in a Zoom room and we sent out all the ingredients for the Manhattan and the Baby Yoda. And so all my guests could go into the room and make the drinks along with them. And I had a DJ in the main room, and I had a male go-go dancer that would dance. And then I had a burlesque dancer that would come in and dance during the Zoom.
I don't get invited to these kind of parties.
And then I had a friend of mine who was a psychic who did past life readings in another room. And then my husband had a trivia breakout room in another one, and we were giving away $25 and $50 Amazon cards for people. And then we had another just hang chill room. And it was so much fun. We had people kind of coming and going all night, and I drank a lot, and it was great.
Oh, I love that.
It's like, we got to use Zoom in a different way for the
Yes.
pandemic. And so I'm like, I'm
Right,
going to have
right.
a birthday Zoom. So,
Oh wow, burlesque cocktails.
yeah, it was great. And the burlesque dancer did 2 numbers, and she popped out of a cake at the end, and it was so much fun.
Very good. Very good indeed.
And on that note,
I'm sitting up here going, well, how do I get one of those parties?
you are invited to the night. I got to
Okay.
think of something else. Hopefully, we won't have to shut down for it. So,
No.
Wow. And as we creep up on an hour,
that went fast.
that went rather quickly. Wow. And I didn't get a chance to acknowledge our wonderful sponsors, the Mental Bar, Workaholic Cold Brew,
Oh,
Modern Coffee for the Modern Achiever. And so
sounds like my kind of coffee.
that's my audition for voiceover work.
There you go. More than. I think you more than qualified for that, Michael. Come on. I'm looking for something to hire you for.
There you go. And if you didn't know, that's a black-owned business here.
Oh, okay.
That is owned by a husband and wife team, Danielle Walker, Tommy Walker. We're
Really?
in Southeast San Diego. They're over there in Imperial.
Well, let's go give them some major love and support.
Right.
Thank you so much.
That's what's up.
That is
Oh.
what's up. Black History Month.
California College of Music says SZ was a collaborative revolution.
Yes.
Damon.
Oh, Damon Carter, who was my pianist for Lady Day, we did a music video called Santa Zaddy. It was inspired by, of course, Eartha Kitt's Santa Baby, and I wanted to do a modern take of it. I think I sent you that link for that, but you can check it out on Santa Zaddy. Karole Foreman, I have a YouTube channel, and so I thought, what would a modern woman asking for different things from a Santa Zaddy do, but that is also responsible and environmentally responsible and anyway, it was kind of a parody of that. I didn't get permission from the Santa Baby estate, but they gave me their blessing on this video, and it's a lot of fun. And so go check it out, Santa Zaddy. And Damon Carter composed the music, and we performed it with Carl Vincent, and it's up on our YouTube channel now, and you can download it from all the streaming platforms.
I love that. And where can they find you as well? On social media? Or?
You can find me on the Book of Faces. You can find me on the Gram That Is Instant.
The Book of Faces.
On my channel of YouTube, and my website, www.karoleforeman.com.
There we go.
And your Insta is
At Karole Foreman Actor.
at Karole Foreman Actor.
Yes.
Instagram.
On the Gram That Is Instant.
I like that. I
Yes.
haven't heard of it that way. I like that.
Instagram that is instant, and the book that is faces.
The Book of Faces.
The Book of Faces.
Book of
That's right.
Faces.
Fantastic. I do not want to let you go.
Oh,
This has
thank you for
been-
having me. This has been so much
wonderful.
fun.
This
I'll
is-
come back anytime.
This has been a blast.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Catherine. You guys have been great. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and to I feel encouraged and supported by you both, and I'm just so grateful for this platform that you are giving to the community. It's vital to share these stories and to lift each other up, and I've loved. Daniel, I love, and Tara, Connor. I mean, those were just some, and with your interviews with Ren. I mean, it always inspire me to see and to hear other people's stories. And I think it's a great way for us to continue to build on that and to build our legacy on it. So thank you for the platform.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And if you folks appreciate the show and you love theater, just take out a couple of minutes to show support by subscribing to our YouTube channel. That would help us out tremendously to have more shows and more interviews like this wonderful interview here.
Help them to control the narrative, y'all.
Yes.
Okay, how about
Help
that
them
part?
to control the narrative.
That part.
That.
Yes.
All right. And so there we go. It's time to sign off, co-host.
I'm so
Till
glad we
next
had
time.
this. Until next.
I know. Should we do the ear? Let's do the ear.
Oh,
I like that.
I won't sing the song in case there are any copyright infringements.
that's
I don't want to get y'all in any trouble. See, know the business.
that's right. That's true. That's very true.
Thank you, Carol.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
both.
And thank you, viewers, for tuning into another episode of Theater Corner Green Room. And we'll see you next time.